Good morning, simulation farmers. Welcome back to another episode of To Be Real. My name is Charm, and I will be your host today and every day until this is no longer my podcast, which I hope is my podcast for a very long time. Today, we are talking all about intentional imbalance. Woo! We love intentional imbalance. In our last episode, we talked about unintentional imbalance, and I didn't call it unintentional imbalance, but that's what it is. Whenever you fall into this place where everything is telling you, okay, you need to make some sort of shift in your life because things are a little bit too out of whack. You're starting to feel the repercussions of being so out of alignment. We talked about how we're shifting our definition and our perspective from seeking balance to seeking alignment, to seeking inner peace. And so in changing our definition of imbalance into something that could be positive, into something that could be viewed as part of the cycle, part of the whole, we are going to do an episode on integrating intentional imbalance, using imbalance in our favor. And again, the key word in this is intentional. When we can willingly subject ourselves to being in a place of what other people might view as lack of balance or a place of imbalance, but doing so from a place of intention and a deep sense of groundedness in the fact that this is only temporary. We are willingly dipping ourselves into a space of imbalance in order to move forward in a certain way that is only possible when you move into a state of imbalance. Again, there are so many wonderful things that we can find in things that we perceive to be negative, but it first requires us to shift our definition. And so that's what the last episode was about. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how to integrate that, what it looks like to actually reap the benefits of the positive side of imbalance. That being said, let's get right into the episode. Okay, so first, when it comes to intentional imbalance, the key word is intentional. It's going to be something that you plan for and use for a reason, for a purpose, and for a season. Because you can only be in a state of intentional imbalance for so long before, one, you lose yourself into a place where it is no longer intentional. You are no longer grounded and rooted in why you are being intentional about spending time in this space of imbalance. And you lose a sense of alignment to being in a space of imbalance. You lose yourself in your work. You lose yourself in whatever it is that you decided to prioritize on purpose. So first, you could lose yourself to your intentional imbalance, and now it's no longer intentional. It's just imbalance, unintentional imbalance. And two, even if you don't lose yourself to the state of unintentional imbalance, you lose the fullness and richness of life, even if you are being intentional about only doing something for an unlimited amount of time. If you spend your entire life only focus on your job, only focus on philanthropy, only focus on your family, only focus on yourself, you enter a state of imbalance, unintentional imbalance, while thinking that you are in a state of intentional imbalance, and therefore you lose your capacity to choose. You think that you're in a place of alignment. You think that you're the one in control, but really, whatever it is that you have decided is going to get your undivided attention is now in control of you. It has absorbed everything about you. It probably has become your personality and the only aspect of your identity. And so you lose these connections. You lose connections with family, with friends, with yourself. You have to be willing to pull back when you realize that this is one, either dominating you and you are no longer in control, or two, you're seeing the signs of misalignment, which is proof that you have now fallen and slipped into this mode of sleeping. And you are now in a state of misalignment. When you want to prioritize something, you are intentionally stepping into a place of imbalance. You are deciding this is at the top of my hierarchy and everything else falls beneath. If it's not this, then it has to come second. And so when you think about it this way, you understand why imbalance can be something that is positive. Would you rather be in a state of perfect balance where every single cup is getting filled halfway because there's only a certain amount of you that can go around? You're still bound by your human limitations and capacity of just being able to be in one place at once and having 24 hours in a day? Do you want to have all of your cups in perfect balance? Or are you willing to step into spaces of intentional imbalance that are planned for, prepped for, even embraced because they have a purpose in order to excel or accomplish something that is very valuable and important to you. Sometimes you have to pour more into a cup in order to truly see that momentum build, in order to see your dreams come into fruition. And your life can oscillate within these, periods of imbalance, intentional imbalance, and still be in a space of pure alignment, inner peace, because you have chosen this. You have been intentional about this. You have planned for this. You have mentally prepared for this. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. And when you do have it all at once, it'll be again in this sense of like they're all half full. All of them are getting a small piece of you, and there might not be enough time just for you because there's so many things that are calling your attention. And so always make yourself a priority because you are the vehicle that is going to get you anywhere. Say all of your goals and dreams and desires are your destinations and you are the vehicle. You must always create time and always prioritize yourself, your spiritual health, and your physical health. That needs to be the groundwork, the framework of like, these things are non-negotiables. However, this is the thing that I'm going to put all of my energy into. This is what I'm going to, step on the fuel, step on the gas in order to get to in a faster way, in a more intentional way, in a more curated or specific way. Maybe you're studying and you decide, I'm not really going to go out, or I'm going to stop drinking, or I'm going to stop doing all of these things and sacrifice those things for the good of, for the momentum building and for the empowerment of this other thing, to be able to take the majority of my energy and feed it into this thing that is very valuable and important to me. But yes, understanding that you are a non-negotiable. Entering a state of imbalance can be something positive if you plan for it, make it time-bound, and enter it consciously and with you as a priority. You need to, at any point, be willing to pull back when you realize that these things are out of alignment. When you start noticing very negative repercussions of you being in a state of imbalance because you're putting all of your energy into something else, you need to be willing to pull back. And your ability to pull back is proof that you're being intentional about it. Because again, if you are letting your motor fall apart, you have been sucked into this thing and now it has power over you because you are feeding it so much of you to the point where it's taking from you rather than you giving of yourself freely. You think you're giving of yourself freely. However, you're kind of in a state of hypnosis where that's all you can see. And at this point, it is sucking things out of you rather than you intentionally saying, I'm going to give above and beyond into this area while not neglecting myself. And so that is what I want to start with when it comes to how to enter and what to do to be in a state of imbalance in a healthy and aligned way. Next, you have to make this something that is time bound. Even if it is by saying, when I reach X goal, or when I reach X amount of months, once I accomplish this step, even if it's something like that, it must be time bound. Again, we want to be intentional about these things. And the longer you spend in a state of intentional imbalance, the more you're walking a fine line to fall asleep to the fact that you are being intentional about this. And then that's when you get lost in this space of being unintentional and just being in a state of imbalance, period. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You will get the signs from the universe. You will get your physical signs that you have, one, either neglected yourself too much or neglected other aspects of your life too much, which is a positive thing. You want these signs to come to you so that you can be like, oh, wow, okay, maybe I need to take my foot off the gas just a little bit so I can tend to these other things that are really valuable and important to me. They might not be my main priority right now. However, I do still need to tend to them. And so that's why we make things time bound. Because we want to be able to take care of the other aspects of our life that are very important to us, that make us a whole person, that allow us to be connected to our community and to all the aspects of life that are dying to connect with you. Life is about connection and being part of the whole. And so when I say plan for it, I don't mean plan for how you are going to do or deal with the thing, your priority thing. You already know that's going to get the majority of you, the bulk of your time, energy, and effort. What you're going to prepare for is how you are going to take care of these other cups that are going to enter a space of being not so full. You give people a heads up. You give your family, your friends, your community, you let them know, hey, I'm entering this space, this period of imbalance where I'm going to give all of my energy to this. And so if I'm not here as often, if I can't, show up for you in the ways that I normally have, please don't hold it against me. This is something that is very important to me. So you give them that heads up because at this point, you're letting these people know, hey, I'm not going to be able to pour as much energy or whatever into this cup. However, I still value it enough to address it before I enter the space. When you enter the space of imbalance without letting anybody know, all it does is make people feel like you don't actually care about them. And then that's when you enter the space of them being like, oh, all you do is study. Oh, all you do is, work out. Oh, you don't care about anything else except for this. And that may not be true. However, that is what you are expressing to them by your actions. You're saying, I'm not going to explain myself. And yeah, you don't need to explain yourself. However, when you care about somebody, when you care about something, you take into account how they would feel, how they are experiencing you, not to the point where you are living for them. However, letting them know in advance, hey, I'm not going to be able to be here as much. Like, this is so important for me. And, maybe we can have a way where we are working together and we can meet up at a coffee shop, or we can set a date once a month so that we can catch up, but letting them know in advance. And so that's how you deal with community. Next, with your health, things that you can do, decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to work out 15 minutes a day. That's going to be, what I do for my body. I'm going to make sure that I'm going outside, touching grass and walking every single day. Maybe I'm not going to go to the gym every single day, but you make a plan in advance and you let yourself know, you know what? I might lose a little bit of muscle mass. You know what? I might gain a little bit of weight, but I know that it's temporary and I'm being intentional about this and I'm planning in advance to not just let myself go. Again, there are areas of your life that need to be prioritized: mind, body, and spirit. And so planning for what you're going to do while you're in this state of imbalance. And I don't just mean planning externally, I mean planning mentally. When you don't plan mentally, you kind of freak out and you enter this space of maybe self-sabotage where you want to really pull back from whatever it is that you're doing because you're seeing how your quote unquote neglect or, putting less of your energy into other areas is impacting you. And so you're seeing maybe your progress slip away in another area. And so you have to mentally prepare and let yourself know, hey, this might happen, but you know what? It's not forever. It's time bound. Don't worry. And when we see these things falling away, falling apart, we're not going to be scrambling to fix them. We say, yeah, that's not a bug. It's part of the programming. We already expected it. We already planned for it. This is what we're doing for it. We're still taking 15-minute walks. Remind yourself that you have a plan in place to prepare for this state or this season of imbalance. Next, enjoy this time of imbalance. Just enjoy it. Don't punish yourself for it. If you see some things kind of crumbling away, this is a period for you that you have been called to. If you feel that sense of aliveness and joy when you work on this thing and you can't wait to get up and this is something that has called to you for years or something that you're so inspired to do and the creativity is flowing and things are just moving and the help is coming, this is something that is in alignment with your soul. And again, sometimes it requires you to pour a little bit more energy into this cup so that you can stay in alignment with what the universe is calling you to do, with what your higher self is calling you towards your dream life, towards a higher timeline, towards your expansion mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. The development of who you are becoming. You're being and becoming all at once. And in Spanish, the word development is to desarrollar. But there's something about desarrollo which kind of implies this sense of the unraveling, but in a good way. It's evolving, the evolution of you. That's what's happening. You're evolving and expanding, and these things require sometimes a being in a state of intentional, beautiful imbalance. And so embrace it. Don't look back at the life that you are leaving behind and wish that you were there. You're not going to be here forever. It's time bound. And at the end of this is something really beautiful that you desire and have been called to and are being drawn towards. So embrace it. Don't feel bad about the fact that some of these areas are lacking a little bit of your attention. You're here for a season and for a reason. And so enjoy it, make the most of it, sink into it. Yes, fall into it wholeheartedly. Don't lose yourself to it, but fall into it joyously. Allow yourself to feel good about the fact that you are entering in this state of imbalance without tainting it with this sense of feeling bad about the fact that other aspects of your life are being sacrificed. You entered this intentionally, and so you let people know. You mentally prepared for it. Allow yourself to be here now. And lastly, put into place as many things that can help you in order to thrive in this state of imbalance. My sister is an attorney and she works 24/7 and she works in corporate law. And so a lot of the times she's like closing deals at like the end of the month. And she was telling me about, being in a state of imbalance and how she'll gain weight and how she's not eating and like all this stuff. And that's actually what inspired this episode because I was telling her the different ways in which she could embrace and mentally prepare for the fact that at the end of the month, I enter this period of imbalance. And for me, having depressive bipolar disorder, I very often fall into the state of unintentional imbalance, just plain regular old imbalance. However, the last thing that I learned was to embrace that as just part of how my brain is wired, not a bug, just a part of the programming, a feature in the programming. And I would love to see just how different my next bout of depression is going into it with this idea of setting into place as many things that will help me during my period of imbalance, during my season of imbalance. I was telling my sister that during these times, again, she has to mentally prepare to gain a little bit of weight, to not be as consistent with her workout routine, but knowing that this is seasonal, this is temporary, and that when things are back into a state where she has more time for herself and the other things that she really values, that she will get back into shape. Another way that I was telling her that she could prepare was preparing for the groceries. Her other thing was like, I can't buy groceries. Like, I just don't have time. There's a lot of things that I need to get done around the house that I just don't have time to do because I'm literally working around the clock. She'll have periods where she's working 80-hour weeks. Like as an attorney, she has to be on the call. And so another thing that you can do if you know that you're just going to be slammed and you just don't have time is when you do have time, when you're preparing for this moment of being in intentional imbalance, maybe you stock up on things like rice and beans, or maybe you just buy a bunch of food that you can freeze or meat that you can freeze to help yourself as much as possible when you are in this season. So setting in place as many things as you can to help you during this state of imbalance. And lastly, allow yourself 1 or 2 times during the month or, during however long you're doing this thing of being in a state of imbalance to take spontaneous action. Yes, we've talked about how sometimes we need to pour the majority of our energy into something very specific, but in order to stay in alignment, you need to be open to taking spontaneous action. Maybe your friend calls you out to, coffee. And if you feel that draw and that pull, not from a space of lack, not from a place of desperation or this space of fear of missing out, FOMO, when you just feel that gut feeling of like, you know what, I really should go. It's kind of been a while since I've seen them. Or you feel this sense of deep excitement, more excitement about that than, working on what you need to work on, or just feeling like, you know what, I do need a break. I've been really like locked in my house for a really long time and I could use a breath of fresh air. I could use friendship and community right now. Allow yourself to take that. You have no idea what is waiting for you in these spaces of the unknown. Taking spontaneous action allows the universe to reach you in a way that might have been closed off for you because you have willingly shut the valve in that space, in that area. Maybe you've gotten to a place of being a little bit more drained than you realize, and Source is calling you out to, remember just how fun and enjoyable life is, to give you that sense of, you know what, I can do this. Let me give a little bit more. I feel refueled. I feel re-energized. And so be intentional about being willing to step away from this thing and take spontaneous action. Tell yourself, I will allow myself 1 or 2 spontaneous things while I'm focusing on this thing every single month, because the whole point is to be intentional, to plan for this. And I'm not saying, go out every single time a friend hits you up. Now you're no longer being intentional about your state of imbalance. You're just allowing yourself to be pulled in whatever direction. But being willing to take time for spontaneity. It's all about planning and preparing yourself physically, mentally, environmentally to thrive and still be in a state of alignment, even while being in a state of imbalance, intentional imbalance. I want to stress this idea that it's very common and likely that you will fall asleep at the wheel to your destination and forget that you're being intentional about this. And there will be signs. There will be signs that show up in your external or internal reality that let you know, hey, I need you to get back into alignment. I'm not saying totally stop what you're doing. Maybe it will require you to take a little break, maybe a 1 day break or something to get yourself back in order. However, you need to trust that pouring back into yourself is going to allow you to show up in a better way than if you hadn't taken that time for yourself. You may notice things about your health. Maybe you're breaking out. Maybe you're feeling really bloated and just kind of sick. You're not feeling at your best. You're not feeling as alert. Maybe you're feeling really sluggish. That lets you know that there is something in your external reality that has not been planned and prepped for in the correct way for you to still thrive. And so you need to reassess the plans that you have set into place, the environment that you have created for yourself in order to get that space back into balance. Maybe you need to allot a little bit more time to your exercise. Maybe you walk in place while you do your work because you're not getting enough exercise. Maybe you wake up a little bit earlier to be able to get some fresh air and a little bit of alone time, to maybe read a little bit, to maybe meditate a little bit. You will see the signs in your health or in your external reality. Maybe your house is getting really disgustingly dirty and maybe you don't work well in that kind of environment. Maybe setting aside a little bit of time every single night, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just tidy up a little bit, to put things into the dishwasher as soon as you're done. Maybe you'll see issues in your physical health, gaining weight very rapidly. In terms of mental health, you might start feeling depressed. That could be a sign that you're not getting enough sunlight. If you are a very social person and you're being cooped up in your house all the time, that could be a sign that maybe you need to go out to work. Maybe you need to start going out to a little coffee shop. Maybe you need to set aside just a little bit more time to spend time with a friend or have a friend come over to work with you and be disciplined enough to do your work while you're there together. However, knowing the things that you need to thrive. I'm thinking of like a couple examples. However, I'm not you, and you're going to need different things than I do. And so, yes, look for and be willing to pay attention to and do something about the signs that are letting you know, look, your state of imbalance is a little too imbalanced in the areas that should have been non-negotiables: physical, mental, spiritual health, and the health of your heart, the health of your connection to the whole. That reminds you, you are part of the whole. It's not just about you and this one thing that you're working on. Imbalance can be a really beautiful phase in your life where you can look back and be like, oh my gosh, I remember when I was grinding so hard in that season. It was so fun. And my family and friends were so supportive. And, it was tough, but it really paid off. That's a really beautiful sentiment to have. And so to embrace that season and to look at it with joy and with appreciation to the fact that you can do something like that and that you have the freedom to choose where you're going to place your energy. That's a really beautiful thing and something that you can really embrace and appreciate. But again, the biggest thing, prepare for. It's something that you can prepare for mentally, environmentally, physically, spiritually. Allow yourself to intentionally use imbalance for your own good, for the good of your dreams, to get you closer to whatever it is that you dream of or desire to work on, or that you're desiring to create. You have that power. Having the knowledge of intentional imbalance as a tool in your tool belt can be so helpful, truly so helpful. Imbalance can be a positive thing when you enter it intentionally, and it's not something to be looked down upon or ran away from. It's just something that you need to prepare for and intentionally enter into. You got this. I believe in you. Your higher self believes in you. Now it's time for you to believe in you. I'm so excited for the ways that you will integrate intentional imbalance in your life as something that's really beautiful and part of the whole, part of the yin and yang, part of the black and white, part of the ups and downs, part of the oscillation between, different sides of life. So that at some point you can switch to something else and you've reached a place to where this cup is really full and you're happy with the level at which you have been able to pour into that cup. You got this. I'm so excited. I'm excited for myself to see how my next bout of depression comes about, or how I deal with it, or how quickly I'm able to get out of it, because now I'm preparing myself. I have structures in place in order to help myself. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited because it is a very, difficult and trying time for me every single time. However, I'm excited to see the ways in which this is going to change my experience with imbalance. So, yes, we're all going through this together. We all sometimes lose ourselves to imbalance, unintentional imbalance, but we can always be intentional about getting back to a state of homeostasis, resetting, and then being intentional about how we move through this world. Anyways, that is the end of this episode. Thank you so much again for tuning in. If there's anything that you guys would like to hear about or have me talk about, please share it in the comments. I would love to engage with you guys. I have so many episodes that I have not promoted. I'm not on social media right now. And so there's a lot of things that I've created and put out there and have zero engagement, which is fine. But the whole point is to build a community and to share with you guys and to be able to create a dialogue and a connection with you guys so that I'm actually helping you and not just like helping you in all the ways that also help myself. Like a lot of these episodes are inspired by myself or people in my life. So yeah, I would love to be able to connect with you guys. Anyways, that is truly the end of this episode. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope to see you in my next episode. Love you. Bye.